Turn it up.
Yeah, absolutely fine.
This is Solent Sports News at 4 o'clock. My name is George Forty, and here are your sports headlines. St Mary's Stadium will certainly be rocking tonight. Southampton face up against high-flying Leicester City under the Friday night lights. Our reporter James Taylor is live for us from the stadium. James, what is the atmosphere like down there at St Mary's?
Yeah, the past couple of hours, I've definitely seen an improvement in the atmosphere. Despite the miserable weather, people are eagerly expecting Saints to record their first home victory of the season. And Ralph Hasenhüttl had some intense words to say this week.
It's time for our supporters. I think it's time to show up as a whole club, that we are committed, that we are putting the best atmosphere we have on the pitch and also on the stands. And if we are working together, then it must be difficult for the opponent to get something in our stadium.
Well, Southampton haven't picked up a home victory since April last campaign. The Saints currently sit 17th in the league with only one goal separating them from the relegation zone. Whilst we look at their opponents, Leicester City, well, they've had an excellent start to the season. They're currently sitting third in the league table. And club legend Matt Le Tissier understands that tonight's match will be a difficult one.
They haven't got many weaknesses, if I'm honest. I think they're very strong all-round team. I would have said perhaps the one position where maybe they haven't got real top quality might be in the centre-back area. That's perhaps a place that we can try and exploit.
Well, over we go now, and obviously I'm now stood outside St Mary's Stadium, and we're just approaching one of the burger vans. We can hear these burglars sizzling away. I'm joined by Ian, who oversees all of this. Ian, in terms of like a Friday night game, do you see a better trade in terms of a Friday night fixture than a weekend?
It varies because Leicester have travelled a fair way, so hopefully they're a bit hungrier. But we always get our regular Saints fans anyway because they support us all the time.
And what tends to be people's favourite burger? What's their go-to?
And quite often we do a £half-pound bacon cheeseburger, which people tend to like a lot. So keeps them going right through the match.
Absolutely, and you've got a lot of hot beverages there as well to keep the fans going. Is there going to be a much bigger queue at this sort of time in the next hour or two?
No, it's normally like an hour or two before kick-off. Then that's when we pick it up, trade. We get a bit of passing trade with people moving around now and the away fans that have come early, stuff like that. So it all depends on the different fans on different locations when they get busy.
Ian, thank you very much.
No problem.
And whilst we look at tonight's game, we mustn't forget that tonight's match also remembers the passing of Leicester City chairman Kun Vichai a year ago today.
Okay, thank you very much for that report, James. It's sure to be an emotional evening for all those Leicester fans attending. Okay, now they say that football without fans is nothing, but is that really the case? The rise of football fan channels has meant that supporters may now have more of a say than ever before. Danny O'Hara has tried to investigate more about these large fan bases and how they've changed with this new online followers.
The Glazers, they don't know nothing about football.
And I think most of the top six in the Premier League are tourist clubs.
You have lost the fans tonight.
It's time to go! It's time to go now! We can't keep carrying on like this!
A morning suit.
He should hang his head in shame and leave the Emirates now.
As modern football continues to expand, so too is the number of fans becoming unhappy with the running of their clubs. Probably the most prominent fan channel, Arsenal Fan TV, has become widely recognised on the web and has over 2.6 million followers across all forms of social media.
AFTV, you heard what Turkish was saying up there. Were we fortunate, do you reckon, to get a point in this game?
I don't think we're fortunate, but I do think it was a fair result.
This is the opinion of Arsenal Fan TV's new recruit and Solent University student Luke Henry. But how did it all begin for the channel?
It was about 5 or 6 years ago. Robbie was deciding how to give fans a voice and an opinion during the games, and he said, "No, I'm just going to set up, a camera outside the games, and if people want to come and talk to me about the game, then they can." He went to do various meetings at YouTube, and they rebuffed the idea and said, "It's not going to work."
But 6 years on, we now know that Robbie's dream as a fan to give supporters a voice has come true.
It's very, very hard to get your point across that's actually going to be listened to. Just normal people talking to you about how you thought the game went and stuff like that. So I think it's definitely had a positive step in the game of football.
Locally, Southampton are currently in their 7th season in the Premier League since gaining promotion in 2012.
Ben Stanfield, I'm the co-owner and host of Total Saints podcast.
Since airing their first episode in 2017, Ben and the team have seen a wider interest in Southampton Football Club outside of the Hampshire area.
You know, we've grown over that time. We've got a global listening now, from Australia to Canada, from Brazil up to sort of Nepal, places like that. We get around sort of 2,000 to 2,500 listens a week, and it really does help, I think, to sort of spread the word on Saints.
The host believes that all fans should have their own opinion on club proceedings up and down the country, no matter at what level.
For me as a Saints fan, I only ever represent myself. I talk about my opinion on the club, on what they're doing and what I think they're doing well and what I think they could do better. That should be the same up and down the football pyramid. A football club without fans would be nothing. So for that reason, I think it's very, very important that fans always have a say, and more importantly, are always given a say.
Opinions in football are always divided. Whether a club is in a positive or negative stage in a season, no two people will always agree.
I think that supporters should have as much to say as possible. I think in recent years that's it's improved as well, especially within Southampton.
I think in lower leagues, fans obviously do have a lot of an impact, but in the Premier League, I just don't think they've got any say in anything really.
You need someone who can have their idea and go with it. If you have 10 people with different ideas, it's going to get muddled.
Dr. Rory McGrath, Senior Lecturer in the School of Sport, Health and Social Sciences.
Rory agrees that fans do make good points, but can't see their influence growing at the top.
I think one of the biggest frustrations that fans face, particularly I think at the top level of the game, is that they don't have a say in what happens.
Rory concludes that unfortunately the content is more likely to hit Comedy Central rather than Sky Sports News.
I think maybe clubs may like fans to believe that they would take notice. In reality, I think Arsenal Fan TV is the prime example of comedy and parody. I don't think clubs would take any notice whatsoever.
Now, following the success of England's women's team at the World Cup last summer, has the profile of the sport increased? Conor Murphy investigates.
60,000 voices are ready, 22 players are ready. Bronze drives the dead ball on White, misses it, and England have the lead. That is the fastest goal of the tournament.
England finish fourth, and it is Sweden who will receive the bronze medals.
Fourth place in the World Cup is a good performance by any standard, but for famous underachievers England is certainly cause for celebration. England women finished a fine performance in France earlier this year with a lacklustre 2-1 defeat to Sweden in the third-fourth playoff, but there were still countless positives to be taken home from mainland Europe. But what has this performance meant to the culture of women's football in England? Will Germany head to Wembley in a European qualifier next month? And for the first time ever, the Lionesses have sold out their 90,000-seater home stadium. The current world record for a female game is 80,000 in the Olympic final in 2012 between USA and Japan, and England's record attendance is just over 45,000. Is this increase a sign of things to come for the women's game? Solent Ladies sports coach Andreas Pozzi thinks that the key to increasing participation is putting the sport more in the public eye.
I think the key is promoting, show on the on TV, on social media, because most of the people, they don't really know about women's sport and women's World Cup. But then when the results come up and people start to follow, and the enthusiasm coming up, and I think is real beneficial, and I think definitely people will follow women's football.
Ottery St Mary's ladies manager Mikey Ringer has seen a constant progression within his girls' team over the summer.
We've increased our youth set up on our ladies from just one under 13s to now an under 11s, under 13s and under 15s.
The British public seems to be increasingly positive about the future of English women's football.
After the World Cup in summer, would you be more inclined to go watch a women game?
Yeah, I'd say so, yeah. Just because it was way more exciting than I thought it was, and the World Cup completely changed women's football for me, because before I didn't think it was that great, but now I did enjoy it, so yeah, probably, yeah.
Being a player myself, I would go and watch a game, and I think showing them on a world stage, it would bring more supporters to more games.
I think a lot more people, especially England fans, will be inclined to go more now than what they would 4 years ago when no one really watched it. So I would go personally.
However, some people are yet to be convinced.
Not really. I prefer men's football. I think it's a different game.
So, with Wembley being packed to the rafters next month, will you be tuning in or even getting out on your local pitch for a kickabout?
We run this mother.
Now on to rugby news, and England are just 80 minutes away from a World Cup final. They face up against holders New Zealand at 9 o'clock in Yokohama tomorrow. Coach Eddie Jones has recalled George Ford at fly half, with captain Owen Farrell shifting to inside centre. Jones believes his squad have done all they can to prepare for victory.
Your job as a coach is to minimise the stress for your players and allow them to be free, allow them to have a clear head, allow them to play with energy and use their natural ability during the game.
In tennis, Stan Wawrinka has withdrawn from his Swiss indoor quarter-final match against Roger Federer. The 34-year-old 7th seed, who lost to Andy Murray in last week's European Open final, beat Francis Tiafoe in the previous round. However, an hour after his win against the American, he announced his withdrawal from the competition. And in boxing, Derek Chisora has confirmed Steve Bronson as his new trainer ahead of this weekend's big domestic fight with David Price. The British heavyweight rivals will face up at the O2 Arena on Saturday night. Chisora's new trainer will offer a wealth of experience, having previously worked with Carl Frampton and David Hay. Switching to golf now, and Tiger Woods has hit the lowest opening round of his career to take a share of the lead at the first PGA Tour golf event in Japan. He's tied with fellow American Gary Woodland on 6 under par, one shot clear of the rest of the field. Woods says things are starting to go his way after a difficult start.
I just kept on having left to right putts after left to right putt, and lo and behold, I make a bomb at 7, which was right to left, which was nice. But it was just weird. Even the one at 9 was another left to righter, so it was just one of those crazy days.
Now, next summer's Olympic and Paralympic Games may be just around the corner. However, as Rob Lomas reports, there are still accessibility hurdles for athletes and spectators alike.
It's going to be Peacock getting the gold. It's a home win for Johnny Peacock.
Outside, but Daisy has done it again. We have been graced by greatness tonight.
Ellie Simmons takes gold in a world record time.
With the Tokyo 2020 Paralympics just around the corner, a lot of focus will be placed on disability sport. The athletes will be competing in front of a global TV audience into billions and in front of iconic settings such as Mount Fuji. However, is enough being done regarding accessible travel?
Hi, I'm Nikki Baker. I'm 35 years old, so I'm not currently in the England squad, but I previously have been.
Nikki has represented England in wheelchair football and has experienced her fair share of difficulties whilst travelling over the years.
The biggest hurdle is actually, even though I love travelling, is the travelling as well. Either for training or for competitions in this country, because at the minute I'm currently playing for a team that's not in my home city.
Participants in other sports have also faced similar issues in the past concerning travel to and from events.
Yeah, my name's Sandra King. I've worked for a long time in disability sport, and I'm currently the talent development manager for Boccia England. We had a particularly difficult time in Russia one time when they refused to allow us to go forward with our own wheelchairs, even though we had one person who was dependent upon oxygen, and the oxygen was attached to the wheelchair.
Could there be changes coming on the horizon? One man is currently spearheading a campaign to see the aviation industry change for the better regarding accessibility.
So my name's Christopher Wood. My organisation is Flying Disabled.
Airline companies try to maximise profit margins as much as they can, but does this come at a cost for wheelchair users?
Put quite simply, there is no access. So if you can imagine a train or a bus or even a taxi, then these are accessible for somebody in a wheelchair. And that's whether you're 8 years old or 80 years old. It's not about age, this is about the sheer infrastructure inside an airline is designed to fit as many seats in as possible.
With Flying Disabled bringing light to these issues before the Paralympics next year, there is optimism that things can change for the better in the near future.
And that's all from us here at Solent Sports News. Thank you very much for listening. If you would like to keep up to date with the stories that matter to you, be sure to follow us on Twitter or Facebook. Goodbye.